We start with.
That's
Can
funny.
I read your silly
I do
script?
have to go get Andrew
We
now.
start with
Really got
Andrew, I redid my
a New York state of mind. Knicks played the game Wilds wanted. A normal win. Brunson had 32. Cat had 24. 13. There's Jalen Brunson, our bug. I don't know if you've seen it, Wild.
Oh, my God.
It's seizing the meowment.
That doesn't even work.
That was.
I'll let you take back over
What
the
is
show. The question.
Did New York prove they can win? These puns are out of control.
Brew, I think they definitely can win. And through 5 games, obviously, the Pacers are at the advantage because they're up 3-2.
Going home.
But going home. And it's weird because would you rather be able to close out at home or would you rather have the insurance of the Game 7 in your building? I don't know. But if you were the Pacers, do you think they would prefer Game 6 home, Game 7 on the road, or vice versa?
I think vice versa.
I
think you'd rather, if you had to choose.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously going to try to win that Game 6. But I would rather have 7 at home.
I agree. That's what
now, they won Game 7 in New York last year, so I'm sure they'll feel confident. But I'd definitely rather have it at home.
I agree. And I still think that, and this isn't reactionary to last night. You guys can vouch for me on this. We talked about maybe having this discussion after Game 5, Haliburton versus Brunson. And I said one of the reasons I didn't want to have it is because even after Game 5, I still thought Brunson's the better player if we're listing players, and it was going to feel weird to be like, here's why he's better after Haliburton just had that game. But I think the Knicks have the best player in the series. And all of a sudden, and this is a very recent and maybe not sustainable development, the Knicks' role players are the ones playing better than Indiana's role players, aside from Mathurin, who got benched early in the series and now has been unbelievable as of late. So I think, Brew, they definitely can win.
Well, first let me address the Brunson-Halliburton thing. They're different.
Oh,
you can argue Brunson he's getting 30 every night. So you can definitely take him if you want. I would rather have a Haliburton type player that's more of a distributing point guard, but still can drop 20. But Brunson is legit. Brunson's awesome. He's a legit superstar. Look, these are 2 very evenly matched teams. I think the Pacers are slightly better, which is why I picked them. But they're close. They're close enough where, the Knicks have a shot. Now, if they win Game 6, doesn't guarantee they're winning the series because, again, last year the Pacers won Game 7 in New York. But they would have the advantage. There's no question they'd have the advantage. Even if they haven't been great at home, they still would have the advantage. The Pacers, by the way, in addition to that Game 7 last year in New York, have won 2 of the 3 games in New York this year in the playoffs. So they would feel confident, but still, you would just rather be at home in this instance. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Pacers get rid of them in 6. We've seen this throughout the playoffs. You even made a statement about it, which is true. The most desperate team in so many of these games has won. We saw it with the Knicks against Boston. When the Knicks were up 3-1, everybody feels like the series is over because Tatum is out, and Boston blows them away in Game 5 in Boston, and then comes back to New York and gets blasted. Minnesota with the big Game 3 against OKC by winning by 40, and then the series kind of gets back to the way these teams are. So I think that Indiana will take care of business. Taking nothing away from the Knicks. I've stated how much respect I have for their toughness, their heart, and all of that. So I think they did great yesterday. But Indiana also didn't show up. Just subconsciously, they clearly relaxed.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because obviously the Knicks were the more desperate team. I agree with all that. It also felt like the Knicks, for the first time all series, instead of trying to just outscore Indiana, was like, what if we actually played some tough defense? And
Brunson played very good defense.
Right. So to me, it was not just that the Pacers didn't have the sense of urgency, but for the first time all series, the Knicks made them uncomfortable in that game, and that's what they're going to have to do back in Indiana, is they're going to have to bring that level of defensive intensity.
Speaking of which, do you expect them to do? I mean, they haven't been a very good defensive team all year. It hasn't been their calling card in the playoffs. They were great last night, but are they going to be able to do that with the Pacers more engaged?
Statistically, forcing a Game 6 after going down 3-1. If you lose 4-2, most of the time, 70%. You lose 4-3, 20% of the time. But I don't know if we'd have to dig into the numbers if you have teams that are down and had home court advantage. Winning 4-3, 11% of the time. So the numbers got a little bit better. I had a question for you. Because I thought you were going to go here. Are you 100% sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt sure, that the Knicks don't have the two best players in the series?
Yes. I'm sure that Haliburton is better than Cat. I am not sure that every night, well, obviously last night's an example, but there is no certainty that Cat won't outplay Haliburton each of the next two games. That's on the board, to go to your point on the history of these series, one of the reasons so few teams come back from 3-1 down is because usually if you're down 3-1, the other team is much better than you.
Right.
And that is, to me, and I think you would agree, even having picked Indy, you said it, that's not the case here.
Right.
It's not that one team is dramatically better than the other. And in this series thus far, it's about, we can show it to you, as even as you can get. Like, the Knicks actually have outscored them barely, but you know what I mean, by a few points this series. They're shooting almost identical from the field. Their three-point rate is almost identical. The Pacers are a touch better from three. And, the Pacers have only led for 4 minutes longer than the Knicks have, despite being up 3-2, which is why, Brew, to me, and I know we're going to talk about Haliburton in a second, this next graphic about how the two stars have been this series and this postseason is instructive. It does feel to me like Brunson is the most reliable player in this series. And he has been, I think you can say, outside of Shea, the most reliable player in this postseason. I guess Joker as well, but Joker got eliminated early. And he has been, this is a great postseason run. And to be 12 points up in points and only 2.5 assists down in assists is, pretty, impactful, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, look, you could add to that because you spelled out how they're closely matched. They're also both very good in the clutch.
Yes.
Like, both teams are good. Like, you go into a clutch game you feel good about whichever side you're on. And, yeah, Brunson is the most consistent. You can pencil him in. He's going to get 30 tomorrow night. Like, he's going to get 30 or more. Haliburton, I think, will play well, but it could be a 19-12 game, or it could be a 30-9 game or something like that.
All right, well, Haliburton went from historically great in Game 4 to completely underwhelming in Game 5. 8 points, 6 assists, low usage rate, confidence level at 100 there. Haliburton this postseason, 3 games with over 30, 4 games in the 20s, 8 games under 20. Should Haliburton's spot in club superstar be in jeopardy after a dud game?
I don't think so, but this is also why a guy like Kevin Durant had to stay. And why I had to put I felt good about putting Donovan Mitchell in. Because, now it is weird because Haliburton is more in the Chris Paul, Jason Kidd mode of player, where they don't get the vast majority of their offensive value by their own scoring.
Yes.
So he shouldn't be held to the exact same standards. But the other thing, you could have added another line on there, which is Haliburton has played 6 playoff series in his career, all last year and this year. And he has had a game with 10 points or less in every single series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so he has had multiple single-digit point games this postseason and a 10-point game this postseason. That is not what we're used to from our superstars. But it's also because we haven't had many pass-first point guard superstars, you know what I mean, in the league over the last decade. Brew would talk about how Magic could dominate a game scoring 8 points. That obviously is not what happened last night, and he's not Magic. I still think he's a superstar in today's context. I also think, Brew, there's still only 5 or 6 guys that you can basically say in the NBA playoffs are going to be at least good or at least productive every single night. And it's In my opinion, the 4 best players in the league, Giannis, Joker, Shea, and Luka. And then check their basketball reference pages. The 2 old-timers, LeBron and Steph, who never, they just don't have this game even at that age. But so I still think he's a superstar. It's just odd because he's not that level of player of those other guys, and he's a pass-first guy, so this is going to happen.
And you and I have talked about this, too. If you go look at some of the all-time greats' game logs from the playoffs, this happens. I mean, Isaiah Thomas had some games where he scored 8 points, 10 points, whatever it is. So this does happen to really all but Jordan, LeBron for the most part, you know, where just every night, even if they shoot poorly,
they're still going to get
they're getting 20-something points.
Yeah, exactly.
So, look, they did a good job on him last night. What they did, they picked him up either full court, 3/4 court, at half court to slow him down. So he wants to play up and down like that. So that's really what they did. So Indiana will adjust to that and they'll be fine. I agree with you that I agreed with him being in club superstar. I was surprised that he was, but I agree with it. I feel like I'm like the biggest Haliburton fan on the set. I might be wrong, but I feel like that. But I did say this yesterday, and I felt this was real. I kind of felt like about Haliburton being in this year's club superstar, kind of. Like I felt about Brunson last year. Like he's about to get there, but it feels maybe a little premature. And so some people are certainly going to argue today it's a bit premature for Haliburton. But like you said, Nick, his value is not based on his points. Now, he didn't play well at all last night, but it's not just based on his points. But he does this. Like, he had 11 games this season where he scored in single digits, which is a lot for a superstar. Yeah. He had 2 games where he scored 4 points. And I'm talking about he played, like, not like he got injured in 11 minutes. 2 games where he had 2 points. And 2 games where he had no points. Like, so he's prone to do this. I don't think he'll do it back-to-back nights. He better not. And I think, Nick, look, and one thing good about Club Superstar is people go in and out. Yeah. If he plays like he did last night in the next 2 games and they lose, he's not a superstar right now. He's not. He'll get it back next year, but he would not be a superstar.
That's right. He'd have to leave the club if they lose this series. Even if
he plays great. If he plays great,
how he plays great and they lose 3 in a row. Well, the next 2.
That's fair.
He has but if he plays mediocre and they lose,
they got to win this.
Can I throw I guess 2 points. One is an insane stat the first one's not an insane stat. It's this series been odd for him because he has had 2 borderline historic performances. Game 1, the stat line was really good, but the historic performances, the comeback, the shot, the iconography of the choke, all that. And then Game 4 literally was a stat line, the likes of which we had only seen a handful of times in NBA history. The other 3 games, he has not been good.
Right.
Game 2, he had 2 points in the first half. Game 3, he was mediocre and they lost. And Game 5, he was downright bad. So his series averages are almost meaningless because it's been like an A game with an A triple plus ending, an A triple plus game, and then sandwiched in between on the other side of them have been bad games. The other one is I think it was on Zach Lowe's great new podcast, but I'm not sure. I heard someone just say in passing, Haliburton splits based on whether he makes or misses his first shot of the game are stunning.
Oh, really?
So I had Josh look it up. This season, Tyrese Haliburton, if he makes or misses the first shot he takes.
That's interesting.
His points drop 7.5 points. His field goal percentage drops 11 points. He takes almost 3 fewer shots, and his 3-point percentage plummets.
Interesting.
That's
stunning, right? That it's just if he makes his first shot, he has a big game and he's feeling good. And if he doesn't, he goes more into a distributor mode, and he doesn't play that well.
For the record, this is how I play too.
Oh, really? Like, you're talking about metaphorically the show or how you play actual basketball?
How I play actual basketball. Looks like I'm off today.
Like I'm distributing.
But, so, that And by the way, it's like 38 games where he made his first and 50 where he missed his first. So it's not a tiny, it's almost equal splits.
Gambling opportunity.
I mean, it certainly feels like it. That's
interesting because people gonna be watching.
Yeah, does he make or miss his first shot? But isn't that to me? And when you add to it that he said early in the year one of the reasons he was struggling was essentially he was too online reading what was said about him or whatever. It speaks to me about a guy that even though he exudes this massive confidence and swagger and is mocking Brunson's three-point celebration and doing the Reggie stuff, he might question a little bit, am I a superstar?
Which is odd. I hear you because that makes sense. But he's so clutch.
He's so clutch.
One of the things, not to get on a tangent, I always admired about Kevin Durant. And everybody would rip him for, the burner accounts and saying he's mental, that's a sign of mental weakness. I actually thought it was a sign of mental toughness. The fact that he could constantly read people ripping him to shreds, go back at him, and still go out there and play great basketball, he did not let that stuff ever get in his head, and that's mental strength to me.
I wonder, just to have a different angle on that, I wonder what it would look like with the shot selection. Like, is he being forced into a weird mid-range jumper, or is he getting an open lane to the bucket, and that's indicative?
You mean about that graphic?
Yeah, of how the game is going to. You get a layup, it's like, oh, they can't. I can get by this guy, and then that
it's still. And I should have I had just heard it, and what it was when I heard it, I was like, that can't be right. Then Josh looked it up, and I was like, wow.
Good job, Josh.
And I would just imagine that for Shea or Luka or Joker or whatever, that whether they make or miss their first shot, their numbers are almost identical. You know what I mean?
It'd really be interesting to see.
And so it was to me noteworthy, and like you said, potentially great live betting opportunity for Game 6.
Make the first one.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.